Okay, I want to show you, Dave, my little soda pop can stoves. Now, this is the one I showed you yesterday, and it's basically two soda pop cans cut off to about right here on two of them, and then very carefully worked one over the top of the other. I drilled out a center hole, and I cut a piece of more soda pop can into a strip, rolled it up into a coil, and then I push it down so that it has got a chamber in there. Put the alcohol here, so it kind of comes up a bit, and so now you've got two chambers, and then you light the center, and if it's too small, it won't stay lit. If it's too big, it will actually just use up all the fuel too fast because of the surface area. So you have to make this hole just the right size to keep a flame going. Now, what happens is that this cylinder gets warm and hot, and it touches the fuel down below and gets it hot and vaporizes it, which then escapes through these little jet holes here. And when that happens, as soon as it gasifies, it comes out, it gets the flame in the middle, ignites these jets. These jets then heat up the can and keep the sustained burn going. This actually gets pretty big. The jets get really big on this one because there's the center heat, and so these things actually get a lot of pressure. They blow out. The problem is that the center hole then, when it pressurizes, it also shoots out. So this actually gets a really high center flame, which is not really good for cooking. You kind of want to keep it flat out, dispersed, and even. So then what I did was I closed this off and used this tin, and the idea is you put the fuel in the middle, close it off, and then you just put a little dash of fuel in this little container here, light it, so it heats up the outside container, and that helps a little bit. But after you were here, I tried something new. I had some juice cans that I emptied out. These are those 7.7 ounce, 5.5 ounce tomato juice cans. I don't know if you can focus on that or not. I did the same thing. Now, the interesting thing about this is I made this a little bit taller, and because I figured since the circumference is smaller, to get the same amount of fuel, I needed to make it taller, which is true. This container can hold about 2 ounces. I put 1 ounce in there yesterday and tested it, and it can hold 2. The problem, though, is the taller you go, the further away these jets will back heat the sides to keep the pressurization going. The cool thing about this, I wish I could take maybe a 1/2 inch or 3/4 of an inch off, and I still may. And it still could probably hold about 2 ounces, but it would keep it hotter and maybe a little bit more pressure. You'll see the pressure here in a second. So the closer it is to the fuel, the hotter it is, the more pressure you get. So basically, I made this one. These two holes are a little bit too close. I wish they were a little bit farther apart because these two jets kind of join together. You'll see that in a second. Basically, the idea behind this is to drill a center hole eventually, put a spring in the middle with a ball bearing, maybe something a little bit bigger than a BB. So that spring would keep that up against there, so you can keep the pressure going, but you also have access to filling. Right now, my only access to filling is to separate the cans and put that in. Now, I've got this other, this is just the bottom of a can. This, again, needs to be modified a little bit. But what you do is by priming, the way this can works, there's no center column. So I put about 1/4 of a teaspoon into this can, just like that. And in here, I'm only putting 1/2 ounce of denatured alcohol here. And I should probably have a squirt bottle, but I'll be careful with that. Okay, and then we carefully, I find it once you get it in, there we go. it gets easier and easier as you go along. Push it down so it makes a good seal, and then put it into the primer container. And I'm going to move this. Here's my fire extinguisher. To get it out from an overhang on my thing. I shouldn't do this inside at all, but we're going to try it. So what I'm going to do is light the bottom area. And it doesn't seem to be lighting. I think this needs to be even shallower than it was before, because I think the sides keep the oxygen from. There we go. I think we'll have it now. Yeah, we got it. All right, I'll turn off the light. You can see this thing prime, maybe. It heats up the sides. And I'll grab my notes from yesterday. Again, I think the sides of this little primer lip need to come down because it just extinguished. I took my notes yesterday. I started the primer, and the jets began after about 1 minute and 15 seconds. So that's how long it takes to get the heat. The jets started. Now the jets in the bottom, they're all kind of a little bit flaky. The jets didn't settle until about 3 minutes into the burn. And then after that, it was a constant, I mean constant, plume of jets for 13 minutes. And that was with 1 ounce of fuel. So this thing, with 2 ounces of fuel, can definitely do more than a meal. I mean, 13 minutes, you're going to be able to get a boil going and then some, so probably even less. So now you can see it's kind of, the jets are starting to pick up. There they go. The other side. There they go. Alright, so now, they're a little flaky. You can kind of see the two jets that are too close to each other on this side. But this is a side burner instead of the top burner. And the side burner kind of keeps the jet separated, which I think makes a little bit makes for even cooking. And we took this tuna can. This tuna can would go right on top of there if we wanted to. But I think I think a bean can with some holes on the bottom and some holes on the top for airflow would be perfect to hold a cooking utensil on top of and as a windscreen. So now it's settled down. These jets will stay like this for 15 minutes or so, maybe a little less, depending on how much fuel you put in. And that sucker will just sit there and cook, and it is hot. Alcohol heat is pretty good. I got my hand over there, and it is hot. It's cooking, so there's no doubt you'll be able to boil water with this. So there's my new, improved, even smaller soda pop alcohol stove. Super lightweight, and I like this concept because it's totally pressurized. You don't have that center hole leaking fumes cutting down your cook time. So with a little bit of some sort of springing closure, I think this would be about right. So anyway, give it a try. Tell me what you think.